Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our meeting for August the 10th. And I'd ask everyone to please stand for the national anthem. So thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And Mr. Cieo, perhaps we can afford to buy a small speaker so that we don't have a tinny "O Canada" again. So calling the meeting to order, are there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Go ahead, Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Declaring for the delegation from the Glengarry Memorial Hospital Foundation. I sit on the board.
Okay. Are there any further declarations? Seeing none, motion to accept the agenda. Deputy Mayor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Massey, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts the agenda of the regular meeting of Council on Monday, August the 10th, 2026.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Councillor Matt. Oh yeah, you can vote on it, sorry. Okay, adoption of the previous minutes. Councillor Cadell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Manley, that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as circulated. Regular meeting of council minutes Monday, July 13th, 2026, and committee of the whole minutes Wednesday, July 29th, 2026.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. There are none opposed. Okay, moving on to delegations, and I'd like to first welcome MP Eric Duncan, talk about the North Glengarry Cenotaph Project, proposal to enhance 4 cenotaphs and monuments. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, and members of the public that are gathered here tonight. I've actually got my MP hat off and my volunteer hat on. Something I've been undertaking the past few years across SDNG is efforts to work with local legions, community partners, and having a great partner in Veterans Affairs Canada actually at the federal level to do as what was described in the opening by the mayor, and that is to enhance and revitalize 4 cenotaphs in monuments in the township of North Glengarry. I've got some well-branded gentlemen here from the Royal Canadian Legion local branch that are here tonight, and I also want to thank Councillor Martin and Councillor Cadell for their help on this committee as we brought this idea forward over the course of the last couple of months, and to the CAO, Mr. Falthrop, that's been very good in some advice and some guidance on a few technical matters that we've had for this project. So we've done several. I've had the pleasure of chairing this as a volunteer several times over in SDNG. Right now we have shovels in the ground in the village of Morseburg. It's about a $180,000 project that's taking about 5 or 6 different pieces from the village of Morseburg there and locating them all along the Morseburg waterfront, adding lighting, interlocking, landscaping, and doing an engraved stone campaign as part of a fundraiser for that effort. It's gone extremely well. We launched that 1 year ago. We're able to raise all of the money, and we're expecting a rededication ceremony to take place next month in September. So we come forward from you. I tell people all the time, I do a lot of R&D. That's not research and development. It's rob and duplicate. What works well in Van Camp or has worked well at the Lost Villages, what's worked well in Morrisburg and Iroquois and Matilda can work very well here in North Glengarry. So I won't go through the entire package that I've provided to council in advance of the meeting, but it does go through what we're looking to do at the 4 sites. So as you'll be aware, the main sites being Alexandria, Maxville, and Apple Hill. And we're also proposing some minor capital works to the cenotaph dedication that's in the hamlet of Dalkeith. This is what I believe is a once-in-a-generation project. We have, in many cases, decades ago, generations ago, these monuments were erected by Royal Canadian Legion and community members commemorating those that served and many that sacrificed in the First and Second World War. Some even in their counties reference the Korean War and some other conflicts since then. But it has certainly been, to our knowledge through the Legion, several decades since a serious rehabilitation and enhancement of these cenotaphs has been done. So what we are proposing to do, as opposed to tackling them one at a time, we're looking at proposing all 4 to go together at the same time to do this in 2027. And I think this would work well for a few different reasons. The rates we've been able to achieve working with local contractors, as opposed to just doing the interlocking on one site. There's actually 3 sites that require that. We've gotten a very good rate. We went out and put that out to bid and are using the lowest tender, lowest quote that come back. And I'll just give you an example of the generosity we have in the community. When it comes to the lighting aspect, we thought same thing. No need to go 3 different years, 3 different bids for the 3 or 4 different sites that we were doing. We went out and I actually had KMAC Electric and McDonald Electric come out to take a look and say, could you gentlemen provide us quotes on what it would do to enhance and brighten the lighting in Alexandria and Maxville, and then add lighting in Apple Hill. And so they looked at things, they did some measurements in Alexandria, and they said, Eric, we'll look at the other sites and we'll get back to you. I got an email that night from them. They said, we're going to work together and donate the entire thing. So they're donating their time, the labor, and the materials to add the electrification and the lighting for each of the sites, just as an example of the generosity we've already seen in the community. So going through quickly, I won't go through each item, but in Alexandria, we're going to widen the interlock space to 11 feet and replace the interlock pathway right from the main entrance at the southeast corner all the way up to the cenotaph itself. We're going to restore and regrout the cenotaph in Alexandria, remediate and clean up the plaques that are there, refurbish the 2 artillery guns, and install new lighting there. We're also looking to relocate the township sign to be a little further north so it doesn't take away from the sight lines of the site that are there. And pending the budget, if all goes well, we're looking at adding a couple of benches to that site. In Maxville, as you can see by the second photo there up on the screen right now, it is quite, it's got some mold and mildew and some stains on it that just needs a little TLC. We've worked with Brunet Monuments and some other companies locally that can go and clean and restore all of that. And in certain cases where need be, go back and add the black penciling into some of the lettering where need be. But we're going to do that in Maxville. We're going to widen the interlock area. With members of council, we've been to many Remembrance Day services, and it's very narrow the way that it is now with an RCMP member and the person going up. Someone's eventually going to roll an ankle just on the narrowness of that. So we want to make it the full width of the cenotaph piece itself right out to the roadway. And there's some lighting there that is definitely decades and decades old. I don't even think it works anymore. But now with the LED lighting technology and the wiring that's available, we're going to look at redoing and reinstalling the lighting there in Maxville. And it needs 2 new flagpoles there. In Apple Hill, we're going to create a T interlock pathway for the cenotaph towards the roadway and back off to the 2 side entrances. Refurbish and clean the cenotaph, and then we're going to add new lighting to illuminate the cenotaph at night, along with 2 new flagpoles. And just an example, Elwin and his work at Dr. George's kitchen there, if we were to go and connect to power and have to go out to the road, just the new connection alone is little power that the site would use. it would be about $5,000 to do that. I talked to Elwin about it, and he's generously agreed through the building being leased is to bring it around the back of the building and tie it into their electrical connection and cover that small cost. That's going to save several $1,000s there, and in simplicity in all of that. And then finally, in Dalkeith, what we're proposing to do is to add some railings going up the steps to the monument walkway, just as a safety feature there on that site. The timeline of what we're looking to do is unofficially launch this tonight to you and to members of the public, but our goal is to look at fundraising the necessary funds. I figure right now between $155,000 to $165,000 for all 4 sites combined, to start doing so now into the course of next spring. Once the money has all been raised and funds have been secured, we'll break ground and do all the work that I've outlined from the spring until midsummer, and then do separate rededication ceremonies in advance of Remembrance Day next year. We want to work closely with the municipality and the Legion to make sure we have good communication and coordination of various aspects of the project. And what we're going to do is I have a request here tonight of council for a few different things. But before I get into that list, the other thing I wanted to mention is a main aspect of the fundraising campaign, or where a significant amount of funds is at the 3 sites of Alexandria, Maxville, and Apple Hill. We're looking at doing engraved stones, where for $150, members of the public can purchase one here. It's done through the municipality, so that a tax receipt minus the engraving cost of about $25 can be taken off, and you can purchase an engraved brick. I suspect, based on the projects I've done in other parts of SD&G, between the 3 sites, we would sell several hundred. The village of Morseburg alone sold 255 stones, just as an example. So hoping we can replicate that in the villages and hamlets that we have for this project. So we're looking for council's support for a few different things in this. You own all of these sites, so we're asking for your approval in principle to proceed with the design and what we're looking at doing. We're looking for you to consider a financial commitment in the 2027 budget of $35,000 for the 4 projects. I will note 2 things there. Number 1, you are coming into possibly a lame duck session, and there are legalities of what you might not want to commit the next council to, but I think this is something I'm hoping that can be incorporated into your budget 2027 documents for the new council to consider, and let us know in the new year as part of that funding. The second thing I will say is up to $35,000. We do plan to approach some service clubs. I plan to approach Scotiabank and the other local banks to see if they would contribute funds. So it would be up to $35,000 if the other funds do not come in. And I'll say that it could be up to a cap of that amount. We're looking to have council consider allowing the municipality to do the banking for 2 reasons. One, as I mentioned, the tax receipts, which are a very large advantage. The municipality can issue income tax receipts. And secondly, when the banking is done through the municipality, you get 86% of the HST back. That's a significant savings and donation in itself if you were able to do that. And again, from a legal perspective, CRA ruling perspective, this is certainly permissible from the other projects I've undertaken with municipalities, as all of these sites and cenotaphs are located on municipal property. Fourth is ask council to be, and the Township of North Glengarry to be the lead applicant on the funding applications to Veterans Affairs. We would actually do 3 separate applications. The Dalkeith one I think we can handle through our internal fundraising, but we would do 3 separate applications for Alexandria, Maxville, and Apple Hill. Number 5 is ask township staff to relocate the signage in Alexandria to the north of the property of the cenotaph there. And lastly is something that we've done in a few of the projects I've been involved with. It's been well received by council, the legions, and members of the public. And that is, if our fundraising goes well and we do have a surplus to offer, is that between $5,000 or $10,000 would be a goal if we had that. But whatever amount we have left surplus, we would ask council to create a reserve fund for our local cenotaphs. So say, for an example, in 3-4 years, some of the interlocking sand starts to diminish and go down. We can go to staff and say, look, here's $400 or $500 to go out. Can staff go and redo this again? In Maxville, some of the trees create that black mold, or that in a few years again on the cenotaph. We don't need to fundraise again. We don't need to come back to council. We can go and say, here's a few $100s to go and keep the monument in good condition that way. So to establish establish a reserve fund for future years after the project is done is something that's been very positive and worked very well. In the few months I've been working on this, the committee that we've had, the council colleagues and staff at the municipal office have been wonderful to deal with. Like I said, this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity and project to show our respect for those that served, now going back, in some cases, 100 years, but several generations now in the case of the Second World War. Our veterans, many of them aren't here anymore. There's a very, very small number from that period of time, particularly the Second World War. I've been impressed when I've gone overseas to Europe and to other places to see the condition that the cenotaphs are in and the number that they have over there, how immaculate they keep them. And my goal is to make sure we can do the same here in SD&G. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, but I just want to thank you for the time and your consideration of our proposal. And again, I want to thank my committee colleagues for their support in bringing this to fruition to you here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your delegation, and kudos to you, MP Duncan, and to the Legion for taking this upon themselves to do. Again, we were happy to honor the people who have sacrificed their lives, and I think that having a great condition on all of our cenotaphs would be a nice thing to have. So, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. MP Duncan, thank you for your leadership on this. I don't know where you find the time in the day to do it, but you do. And, you know, I think your efforts are very much appreciated and will be valuable. I just have a quick question about the Apple Hill cenotaph in particular. Is there going to be, so there's no pathway there currently?
Correct.
And it's difficult to access, it's on a hill.
Yep.
Is that going to be able to be landscaped to make it more sort of even, or will a walkway be established there?
So the walkway will be established with a bit of a slope from it. So the walkway itself will be level, and there might be a bit of an elevation going up to the cenotaph there. But it's the same thing whenever you have different shoes on and you're going on the grass, and kind of it can easily slip and go up. Our plan is to balance that out. In Alexandria as well, when we widen the path in Alexandria from the entrance in the southeast up, we're actually re-angling it to move it away from the artillery guns, because the one gun actually comes out over in the walkway and is always an issue on Remembrance Day and coming up there. And secondly, it allows for the full contingent of Legion volunteers and pipe bands to go up there. That's going to require a leveling off as well down on that site. So both in Apple Hill and Alexandria, the interlock walkways themselves will be flat, and we'll make sure that they're sloped properly, not too dangerously to do that.
That's superb. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Cadell and Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on the subject of the bricks, the fundraiser, that people can put anything on that they want. Like for myself, I'm going to have to buy 3 because my wife's great uncle died in World War I, and her uncle died in World War II. And the one who died, John Leo McDonnell, his name is on Apple Hill as well as Alexandria, so
Nice.
I'm stuck.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point. We do have flyers and forms which we're going to launch in the coming days after this presentation in seeing there. And it's a good point to raise. And I've noticed this from other projects. You can put it in memory of a veteran, in memory of someone who lived in town. You can put your business name on it. You can put your family name on it. There's a whole mix of that. It doesn't have to be just in memory of a veteran. Many can choose to do that. Many can just put their name, their family name, or whoever they choose to do that way. And yeah, it works out to be a great fundraiser that way. Our plan is also to take that flyer and mail it out through Canada Post. That's been a good success to every home in the towns to make sure that everybody gets one at their door or in their mailbox, and have drop-off points at the Legion, the municipal office here, and perhaps a couple other sites as well. But Peter's going to be leading that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cadell, I think, one in your name, your wife, your 2 kids would be appropriate as well, so.
We'll put you down for 4 now, yes, thank you.
Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Eric, thank you. I will say Eric because you are volunteering on this one. Incredible initiative, and to your point about how Europe treats their monuments, definitely something that we should be taking pride in, and definitely something that is, I'm going to say overdue, but definitely timely. Excuse me. So, good on you. Thank you for all the volunteers. And the mail-out, I'm going to say all the municipality, not just the towns and hamlets. Make sure we hit all the rural roads as well, because I'm going to say everybody in the municipality has an interest in it.
Fair point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I see Elwin from Dr. George's Kitchen walked in late, so thank you, Elwin, for generously allowing the power to be hooked up to your place. Just make sure you pay the bill. So. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you again.
Thank you for the time. Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it. Okay, our next delegation is the Glengarry Memorial Hospital Foundation update. Fundraising Manager Kim Jericho, Chair of Board of Directors Mark Adams, and past Chair and Treasurer Pierre Vaillancourt. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor McDonald, members of council. Thank you very much for welcoming us this evening. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mark Adam. I'm chair of the Glengarry Memorial Hospital Foundation. And as you mentioned, I have past chair Pierre Vaillancourt with me, and we have board member Scott DePrato and fundraising manager Kim I'm sorry, Horencho, sorry about that. And obviously, hospital CEO, Robert Hughes. We sincerely appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about something that matters to every resident of North Glengarry, and that is the future of healthcare in our community. Every family hopes that we'll never have to use the hospital. However, we all know that when the time does come, whether it's to take care of our children, or a parent that may have suffered a stroke, or a loved one that's facing a life-changing challenge, nothing matters more than knowing that quality care is available here at home. Our foundation is in its final 7 to 8 months of a community-wide campaign to bring a CT scanner here to Glengarry Memorial Hospital. And thanks to the extraordinary generosity of residents, businesses, clubs, and community partners, we've built a tremendous momentum. We're now approaching the final stretch of a $3.5 million campaign, and we're asking North Glengarry Council to help us cross that finish line. A CT scanner is more than just a piece of medical equipment. It means faster diagnosis, it means quicker treatment decisions, and it means fewer residents having to travel outside of our community during a time that's probably one of the most stressful times of their lives. And more importantly, it means better care closer to home. We often say that we're all healers, and in a rural community, healing just doesn't begin when someone arrives at the hospital door. It begins when our neighbors support our neighbors. It happens when volunteers give their time, when local businesses contribute, and when community leaders like yourselves invest in services to keep our families healthy and safe. Tonight, Council has an opportunity to join that community effort. We respectfully ask the Council direct staff to include a $10,000 contribution in the Township's 2027 budget for the HGMH Foundation CT scanner. Of course, that $10,000 ask, if you happen to have more, we will take more. If our understanding is correct, this recommendation would allow incoming council to consider and approve the contribution following the municipal election. The timing would align perfectly with our final phase of our campaign as we work towards getting towards our $3.5 million goal. The presentation that follows will demonstrate why this investment is so important, not only for our hospital, but for every resident of North Glengarry who depends on timely access to quality health care. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce fundraising manager, Kim Horencho. Very good. And she'll take us through the campaign, the data behind the need, as well as the impact a CT scanner will have on our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present our CT scanner campaign in front of all of you. Some of the things that I will share here may be not new to you, but allow me to share the data behind what it means to have a CT scanner in our community. Be a healer. That is our campaign message. And as Mark has said, healing does not start at the hospital doors. And for us at HCMH Foundation, healing actually starts right here in this community. It is our pleasure to share with you just how and what it means for our foundation. You might all be familiar with what the hospital looks like. You're very familiar as you enter through its doors about how it's welcoming you, especially in time of need. We are very proud of this hospital. It's been in operation since 1965. And for some of you, you may know it with more than 37 beds. But currently, it has 37 beds that assist our patients who need longer-term monitoring and care in the hands of our expert healthcare teams. We have a 24-hour emergency department. Here in our community, whenever I speak to donors, they always tell me, we are so lucky to have a hospital nearby, especially during times of emergency. Whenever they need it, they know that it's right here in our community. I want to turn your attention to this number, 72,000. That is the number of patients that walk through our doors and availed of services in our hospital. When I say that it's a small and mighty hospital, this is really what it means. And further to note, the previous fiscal year before that, in FY 2025, we received 54,000 patients in our hospital. That underscores just how important caring is in our community. If you're curious, what does the numbers mean? So in 2026, HCMH delivered 18,700 emergency visits, providing 24/7 life-saving care. We also delivered 17,500 diagnostic imaging procedures for supporting rapid clinical decisions. We also had 22,500 plus laboratory tests, forming the backbone of patient diagnosis and treatment. Last but not least, there were 2,000 plus outpatient visits. Some of you may not know that we have specialists in our hospital that specialize in urology, gynecology, and respirology. Again, if you can see, there was an increase in the number of people who availed of diagnostic imaging and laboratory tests. Just underscores how much it's needed and how a CT scanner plays a role in that picture. You might be wondering now, where does North Glengarry fall into this? I'm going to focus on emergency department visits because that's the readily available data that's available to us. So in FY 2026, there were 7,482 emergency department visits in our hospital. This accounts for 40% of the ED visits we received that fiscal year. I'd like for you to sit there for a second. So for us, it's not simply a nearby hospital. This is really a major part of the local healthcare infrastructure. And that is where HCMH Foundation falls. And that's really why I'm here in front of you today. Our mission as a foundation is we raise funds and foster community partnerships that empower our hospital to deliver outstanding care, drive innovation, and ensure access to sustainable healthcare for future generations. I want to zoom in on one word, partnerships. And thank you all so much for being here tonight, because to me, that is a signal that you're all open to being partners in our mission. Together with our board of directors and our leadership, we recognize that we cannot do this all alone. We need partners and we need support. I think one of the things, and allow me to share this personal anecdote, the reason why I'm standing in front of you today is I was actually inspired by the story that I learned about HCMH Foundation. Community leaders rallied together on Christmas Eve of 2002 because they recognized that they need to stand up for the hospital and for local care. At the time, there was threat of hospital closure, And so community leaders said, you know what, this can't happen. We need to make sure that our hospital continues to stand. And so they formed HGMH Foundation, and together with community partners, they raised $1.7 million to modernize the emergency department. Now, I want to bring that back to the 18,700 emergency visits that we receive in FY 2026. If not for the leaders that stood up and rallied together, we wouldn't have been able to accommodate the needs of our community. And so we invite community leaders such as yourself to stand with us today and help us in our new mission to provide an on-site CT scanner at our hospital at HGMH. This number that I'm presenting now is what we have submitted to the Ontario Ministry of Health when we applied for approval for an on-site CT scanner at our hospital. Beyond the numbers, imagine being a patient. Imagine experiencing the worst headache of your life and being told, I'm so sorry, we can't answer why you're having a headache because we don't have an on-site CT scanner. We need to call the nearby hospitals, which are 40 plus kilometers away or 46 kilometers away, to ask, is there any available appointments to have today so that we can transfer you for a CT scan? Imagine being in pain and having to drive all the way to Cornwall for a CT scan and back. So that's the reality of some of the patients, because according to the data that was made available to us, nearby hospitals provided 12,451 CT hours, and there's a gap of more than 8,000 CT hours each year. These are people who are waiting for answers, for a headache, for pain, maybe even cancer. And so with your support, with the community support, we hope to have that answer sooner for our community members who need it the most. As you can see in the data that I presented, the need is growing, and rural patients can't wait any longer. With the support of community leaders, we're so proud to say that we've reached $2 million in our fundraising campaign. We were not able to do this alone. With community generosity, many people, men, women, even children who had lemonade stands, stood up and helped us in our fundraising initiative. We're not there yet. We can see the finish line, but we still need more support. And this is why I'm standing in front of you today. Our ask is to invest in our community with a $10,000 contribution, or more, if you can, to fund our vital hospital equipment and strengthen rural patient care. I'm going to end with this slide. Earlier, we said, be a healer. We recognize that being healers are physicians, our nurses, our healthcare workers. But we also recognize that each one of us here tonight form part of that healthcare ecosystem. It starts with us, with our generosity, with our support. Patients who are waiting for answers can get there sooner. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you for your presentation, and congratulations to your committee, to the foundation for surpassing $2 million. That's a good milestone. That's a great milestone, and a little bit further to go. So do I have any questions from members of council? Go ahead, Councilor Martin.
As a cancer survivor, just last month I had my final CT scan to clear myself of any more kidney cancer. And I found out in that process, like I'm very familiar with CT scanners and MRI machines now, but I found out that over 80% of kidney cancers are found accidentally while looking for something else
Right.
with CT scanners and MRI machines. So it is basically could be a life-saving piece of equipment, and it's a very, very important project.
And congratulations on beating cancer.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. There's no question that it's important work that you're doing. I'm particularly sort of close to the whole rural healthcare issue, given a board I sit on that is a provincial board. And it's these very projects and bringing this kind of required equipment into our rural hospitals that strengthen them, that keep them in our communities and serving, as you said, people closer to home. So Congratulations on your milestone, and yeah, well, you'll get there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? So thank you very much for coming and presenting. And Rob, congratulations. I saw tonight that we got a new doctor coming into the ER, so that's great news. And it's great that we're drawing some... more to come. More to come. Good. That's good to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next one is asset management plan presentation. Marissa with PSD Citywide Inc., and she'll be online.
Yep, just bear with me one moment, please. There we go.
Hi, Marissa, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Okay, perfect. And I've just shared my screen, so you should be seeing a presentation on your end. Is everyone seeing that okay?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Perfect. Okay. Wonderful. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for having me today. As Jenna mentioned, my name is Marisa Benuela-Spencer, and I'm here with PSD Citywide. Today, I will be providing a summary of the Township's 2025 Compliant Asset Management Plan, highlighting some key findings, the steps that were taken to achieve it, regulatory compliance, and recommendations for next steps. To support this, perfect, I will be covering off 5 key items. We'll start with some regulatory background, highlighting what the regulation that is driving asset management within the province is, what it requires, and what its intent is. From there, we'll go into an overview of the project, highlighting the key objective and milestones that were achieved to support that. After that, we'll get into some key details from the plan. This will include the proposed level of service that was selected, and we'll conclude with some next steps and recommendations. So, beginning with the regulatory background, you may have heard the OREG 58817 referenced. You may have also heard of it as the Asset Management Planning for Municipal Infrastructure Regulation. This is a regulation that all municipalities across the province of Ontario are required to meet. It has a series of different requirements. This started with an asset management policy, which was required in 2019, and then a series of asset management plans due between 2022 and 2025. Those plans carried increasing complexity requirements in terms of what reporting was mandated. Across all of those timelines and requirements, the intent is consistently for municipalities to better understand their asset portfolios with a long-term view, and to understand the associated investment requirements, the life cycle strategy requirements, and ultimately, in so doing, to support sustainable and long-term management of municipal infrastructure. This project focused on the 2025 requirements under the regulation and ultimately resulted in a 2025 compliant asset management plan. So now that we've gone through the regulation piece, we'll start with a bit of an overview of the project. So what were some key objectives and what were some milestones that were achieved in order to reach that objective? The key objective was to develop a 2025 compliant asset management plan. You might see this in short form as an AMP. That AMP must define the proposed levels of service and have a supporting financial strategy and long-term asset management approaches to meeting it. To achieve that objective, there was a series of different tasks and associated milestones that needed to be met. At a high level, we can kind of break these down into 4 key milestones. The first is a data review and update. Here we worked closely with staff at the municipality, particularly within Public Works, to review nearly 6,000 individual asset records and to verify and update as necessary information on them. This type of information would include things like the condition of assets, the replacement cost of assets, the quantities of assets, and additional fields depending on the asset category. This was foundational to the analysis that then followed. The second milestone was proposed levels of service. Here we identified different options and then evaluated those options. Ultimately, this led to the selection of an option, which then the financial strategy and life cycle planning was predicated upon. The fourth milestone was the culmination of everything. This would be the regulatory compliance, where we put the pieces together to create the 2025 compliant plan. So some key details from the plan, just to highlight those to you. This slide, I should say, is looking at the current state of the inventory. So this is reflecting the condition and the replacement cost of your assets as of January 1st, 2025. The graph on your left is showing the total replacement cost. So this is the estimated cost to replace the township's infrastructure. And as you can see, it's coming in at over $530 million. Most of these costs are associated with your road network, followed by your water and sanitary network, but other asset categories certainly contribute to that total as well. On the right, we have a graph showing the overall portfolio condition. The different colored bars are representing the condition of the assets, which range from very poor to very good. As you can see, most of the assets are in at least fair or better condition. When we look at condition, we would consider very poor to be an asset that's generally unfit for sustained service, meaning it's likely to fail. Poor would be something that has an increasing potential of affecting service. Fair would be something that's operating but might require a little bit of attention. Good would be something that's adequate for now, and very good would be considered fit for the future. If we look at, on an average basis, what's the condition of the portfolio? It's about a 63%, which would represent good. Of course, condition is dynamic. It's going to change over time. And so this is just a snapshot in time of your condition. Another important element that we look at is what we call the 100% of your requirements. A requirement represents the investment that's needed to replace an asset when it's completed its estimated useful life, or to rehabilitate that asset if it's been modeled. So this graph here is showing the forecasted capital investment requirements over time. It is bucketed into 5-year buckets of time. So you'll see, for example, the period of 2026 to 2030 being 5 years, and the subsequent periods also being 5 years. The colors indicate the asset category to which the investment is related to. And so we can see that over time, some of the 5-year totals vary. That variance would simply reflect that in some periods of time, more assets require or are forecasted to require investment than others. And typically this would be a reflection of the age of the assets and their condition. The red dotted line represents the average annual requirement. What this means is this is the average amount of money that needs to be spent on capital projects and or saved for future capital projects, so that when those investments come due, you have the funds to pay for them. We looked at this in conjunction with what we would call your sustainable capital investment. This is generally based on taxes and rates, as well as reoccurring and kind of more guaranteed grants like your OSIF and your CCBF. We found that there's generally about 3.8 million available for investment. What this means is about 37% of your requirements are funded. We then looked at proposed level of service options. So a proposed level of service reflects forecasted asset performance by a defined future date. Within the context of OREG, we're looking at a 10-year period as a minimum. And the selection should generally consider cost, risk, and feasibility of the options. So we looked at 3 options. The first was to maintain existing capital spending levels. The thought behind this was that there was value in understanding the long-term implications of continuing with current investment. The second scenario that we explored was targeted investment in what we would call high-risk assets. These are assets that have both a high probability of failure and generally also a high consequence of failure. And then the third scenario was full life cycle funding. So this is based on replacing assets when they've reached the end of their useful life, and that would reflect the investment illustrated on the previous graph. We evaluated, as I mentioned, those options and looked at specifically condition, risk, cost, and achievability. At a high level, we found that scenario 1, which is your current funding, is forecasted to provide the poorest or the worst outcomes in condition and risk. This would reflect the fact that under this scenario, in many years, you're not funding the replacement of assets when they need to be replaced, and therefore the condition of the portfolio is declining. While this would be the most affordable in terms of the capital investment requirements, and generally the most achievable in terms of execution of projects, it carries pretty significant operational risks simply because you're anticipating that in the future you'll have more unanticipated asset failures, potentially more severe asset failures, and that can be difficult to respond to, particularly when there's a lot. The second scenario, which looked at targeted investment in critical outcomes, indicated kind of mid outcomes in terms of condition and risk when compared to the three options presented. It was generally a mid affordability with about a $9 million annual investment. It's considered achievable if you use a phase-in approach. When we say a phase-in approach, what we mean is that rather than increasing the investment from where you are now to the target in 1 year, you do it over a much longer period of time. Typically, we would look at periods anywhere between 5 and 20 years. The third option, the full life cycle funding, had the best outcomes in both condition and risk. It is the most expensive of the three options, relatively, just modestly more expensive than scenario 2. And it was also considered to be achievable if implemented under a phased-in approach. We engaged key staff at the township to review the outcomes of this with them and to get their selection of the proposed level of service. Staff selected scenario 3, which is the full life cycle funding option. Some key considerations that guided that selection was that it aligns the investment with the full asset life cycle requirements. Essentially, it matches in the long term the investment with the need. This results in improved overall asset condition and, of the options, the lowest long-term risk exposure. It supports proactive asset management and reduces more of a reliance on reactive maintenance or response to issues. It does require sustained and long-term increases in taxation and user rates. It does place slightly higher demand on internal capacity or contractor availability. However, again, under a phased-in approach, this can be, your internal capacity to deliver projects can be increased over time. It provides for the most stable and consistent service levels across all asset categories. This is in contrast with scenario 1, which carries pretty significant risks in terms of anticipated declines in condition and increases in risk, as well as scenario 2, which does carry more risk in comparison to scenario 3. A financial strategy was developed to understand how to meet this investment requirement. And so this next slide is showing the increases that would be required each year for 20 years. So 20 years would be your phase-in period to reach your target funding level. These increases do not account for inflationary adjustment, and they reflect capital investment increase requirements only. So all of that would have to be allocated to capital. It's not accounting for operational. So to conclude this presentation, a few next steps and recommendations for the township. We have both program recommendations and what we would call compliance-based recommendations. So from a program recommendation standpoint, we suggest that at your next budget cycle, you consider and to the extent possible incorporate the suggested increases to your budget to support meeting the proposed level of service. From a program recommendation, we suggest that the township continue to work with your data, completing data gap analysis, followed by a phased data improvement plan, and I know that work's actively underway. We also suggest that the municipality begin preparing for the plan's annual review, which is required July of next year. From a compliance-based recommendation, we recommend that council, as per section 8 of the regulation, approve by resolution the plan, and that they also authorize staff to post the plan on the municipality's website. That concludes my presentation for today. I would like to take a moment to thank the township for allowing PSD to be a part of this project with you, and also to key staff at the township who we worked closely with to execute on the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to speak now, or?
Through Mr. Mayor, I could add a few comments. We have the subsequent report, which will add a little bit more context as well. So in general, I guess what I would add is, most municipalities, or almost all municipalities across the province, are in the same position. That was the reason why the province required that these plans be done, so that municipalities understand the cost of their infrastructure and appropriately plan for it, so that large unaccounted surprises don't pop up that aren't able to be sustainably funded. It's also part of the province's goal of municipalities being sustainable to fund their own infrastructure. So I guess what I would indicate as a key takeaway for the municipality is, one, the position or the backlogs that were presented today are no different than any other municipality across the province. All municipalities have the same thing. It's often related to when municipalities grew or a lot of their infrastructure was built. And eventually it comes due, and a lot of it is coming due now for many municipalities across the province. The other thing I would note is all municipalities are on an incremental long-term plan to become fully fund the life cycle of these assets. Most municipalities are not at that stage now. They're on long-term 20 to 30-year plans that incrementally get increased over time. And this plan will form part of our key, I guess, foundational documents as part of the budget planning process. However, we always keep into consideration what is sustainable for residents within the municipality, and while balancing the needs that are identified in this plan. So, like I said, the results aren't necessarily unexpected. To be honest, they're a little bit better than I would have expected. I think it's generally good news that there's an achievable plan that we can meet to achieve full life cycle replacement. Full life cycle replacement is a very high bar, as kind of presented in the presentation this evening. However, I think all municipalities should be over the long term planning for full life cycle replacement, as that's the responsible thing to do as a municipality. And lastly, I guess I would add too is the completion of this plan fulfills all of our obligations under the OREG for asset management planning, which puts us in a good position for senior levels of government funding. So we certainly recommend endorsement of the plan tonight. Additionally, the last thing I would say too is we'll continue to bring updates to this plan as part of the budget process. So the plan will be a living document. As we close some of the data gaps that they identified, more information will become available, and we'll continue to present this to council as part of our budget deliberation process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from, go ahead, Councilor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Marissa. Appreciate it. A question, you're obviously very in this, and I'm presuming I've done a few of these. You may note that this brings us up to our requirements for 2025, when these plans were required to be in place. And come next year, 2027, we would have an annual review that's required. Is there anything that is known right now that is mandated by the government that will require additional work on this, or anything other than the, as our CAO just mentioned, the constant updating and the annual review? Is there something that we know of that's coming out in this as well, or in the future, I guess?
So the only requirements that have been kind of officially communicated are those within the regulation. Whether that changes and how that changes in the future, time will tell. I don't suspect it would change materially, at least not in the next, year or two. So the next kind of requirement, as you mentioned, would just be the annual review of the implementation of your plan.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
no problem.
Further questions or comments? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. CEO Fothrop, you were saying, that this process would then need to be addressed at budget time. Like, if we approve this plan as laid out with the life cycle replacement in there, how does that then sort of put us in a position where, we have to do tax rate increase at a certain rate, regardless, because, some budget years are leaner and harder than others, and, how will we be able to manage that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so the options presented are really just projections. I think it is quite, standard that a very incremental approach be taken to some of these recommendations. The option that we selected is very, like I said, it's full life cycle replacement, which is, what municipalities should be planning for. However, it is a high level of service, obviously. To your point, what is being presented this evening will not tie council's hands through the budget process. It is an informational document that will form part of our budget presentation, so that we can compare where we're actually at to what the asset management plan proposed. However, the local needs and sustainability, that will all get, council will certainly have discretion through the budget process to decide what reasonable tax rates are for the municipality. And this will certainly not tie the hands of council or the township in that respect. And I guess what I would add too is, 20-year plans were presented tonight. It's not out of the ordinary that a 20-year plan becomes a 25-year plan because of affordability, or it becomes a 30-year plan, or whatever it is. I think the key milestone is that you know where you are, and you're incrementally getting better, and you're making sure you're not getting worse. And so it'll be up to the council at the time of budget to determine, what that plan looks like, and we'll have information readily available that we'll be able to compare what we're proposing to, and what impact it will have in regards to our level of service.
Okay, thank you. Subsequent?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that explanation. That gives me some comfort. I was having tax rate increase anxiety there. And so, because, those numbers don't include any operational. So, thank you. That gives me some comfort.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and just to add to that too, and we're always balancing risk, I guess, when we propose our budget. So, they have recommendations for each different asset class. Each asset class has different risk levels. So, a road is different than a bridge in that regard. So, we would, through the budget process, prioritize, investment in certain assets over others, and that's kind of the normal process that follows through the budget process. And then at the conclusion of such, we continually can update the numbers and see where we're doing, and show that we're making progress. We might not be able to meet the exact recommendations, but we can incrementally get there.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Massey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Marissa, you mentioned that we were 63% good on the one chart, I believe, average. So what would be the average of Ontario-wide average? Is there like municipalities that are below the 50% mark, or there must be some?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Marissa can add into if she wishes. So Marissa might be able to provide some examples, but it really depends on how you set your levels of service and what your criteria are. So it's difficult to say, like it's not a standardized ranking system for each asset class, which makes it difficult. What I would say is, 63% being good is generally pretty good. What you'd be concerned about is the red. So the red is assets that are overdue and what you need to replace and prioritize immediately. So that has generally, I would say, more of an impact. So it really just depends on, I guess, that cross section of different ratings. But what I would say is that result is, I would say from what I've seen, it would be kind of a consistent result across the province. It's pretty good. Nothing too concerning, but yeah, obviously there's a gap there that we should improve upon.
Okay, thank you. Further questions or comments at this time? Go ahead, Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to add in one highlight that I don't want to get lost in the message, the fact that this is being completed, and obviously we have a report coming to request acceptance of it or move acceptance of it, that it places us in a good position for funding from upper levels of government. This is something that's been required. It's been noted to us in delegations that this is due, and this is noted that it has yet to be completed. So the fact that this is now completed is I'm going to say, a very beneficial thing.
Yes, and I've noticed in looking at the actual report that if you look at the two bridges that are in the poor condition, one of them is the 17th bridge, which we've already taken out of service and have done a low-level crossing, and I believe McEntee Bridge is another one that we're looking at this point. So, these are on green roads and very limited traffic. So I think there are other solutions to get through these roads. So that's some good news in the future of getting some of these right off. And these are both in poor range. So any further questions or comments at this point? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Marissa, for your report, and look forward to keep working for you with the updates in the future.
Thank you for having me.
Great, thanks. Okay, it's the end of all our delegations, and we'll move into staff reports. Administration Department, AD 2026-12 Asset Management Plan Approval. Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Madden, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receive staff report AD 2026-12 2025 Asset Management Plan, and that the Council endorse the Township of North Glengarry 2025 Asset Management Plan prepared by PSD Citywide Inc. as presented, and that staff be directed to post the approved asset management plan on the Township's website in accordance with the Ontario Regulation 588-17.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, generally provided the majority of my comments previously. So this would be the formal adoption of the report. So this would allow us to formally accept it. It would be posted to the township website, submitted to the province, which would allow us to increase our total asset values, which would have a benefit in terms of funding allocations. So good news that we have this completed. So the report requests endorsement and move ahead with posting online and submitting to the province.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Just went through it. All those in favor of the motion? The motion is carried. There are none opposed. Okay, moving on to AD 2026-13 election sign bylaw update. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Williams, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receive report number AD 2026-13 election sign signed bylaw update, and that the Council adopt bylaw number 36-2026, being a bylaw to regulate election signs within the Township of North Glengarry, and repeal bylaw number 21-2018, and that the bylaw 36-2026 be read the first, second, and third time and enacted in open council this 10th day of August, 2026.
Thank you, Councillor. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this next report is regarding the election signs bylaw. So at the last council meeting, we passed a change to the election signs bylaw where we stipulated the timeframes the election signs were allowed to be installed, as well as the timeline for when they needed to be removed. So at that meeting, we indicated we were completing a more comprehensive review of the bylaw to, I guess, really further expand upon the contents of the bylaw, so specifically identify more criteria and expand upon it so that there isn't any chance for, I guess, misinterpretation. We wanted to really make things clear and basically update it and modernize it. So it includes the approved direction at the last meeting for 45 days before voting day is when they can be installed, removal within 5 days following the election. It retains many of the same provisions regarding sign size, placement, safety, and property owner consent. The proposed bylaw expands and clarifies a number of existing provisions, which include that requirements that basically sign be placed on private property, not on municipal property. Some enhanced safety requirements, as well as some identification requirements for candidates and anybody that's a third-party advertiser, so that basically we have contact information should we need to get in contact with anybody and return any sign that somehow becomes in our possession. So generally, I would say our proposed bylaw is consistent with most municipalities across the province. The intent is really just to provide a clear, comprehensive and enforceable framework that allows both political campaigning while also providing rules around safety and protection of infrastructure and community aesthetics.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? The motion is carried. There are none opposed. So, AD 2026-14 HEWSF Funding Scope Enhancement Agreement. Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Martin, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receive staff report number AD 2026-14 HEWSF Funding Scope Enhancement Agreement. And the council endorse amending agreement number 1 to the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund, HEWSF, intake 2 transfer payment agreement between the Township of North Glengarry and the Ministry of Infrastructure. And the council approves bylaw 43-2026 to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute amending agreement number 1 and any associated documentation required by the Ministry of Infrastructure to implement the approved scope enhancement and project extension. And that bylaw 43-2026 be read a first, second, and third time and enacted in open council this 10th day of August 2026.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Seale.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this report relates to the Housing Enabling Water System Fund that the township receives. So we're seeking approval of an amending agreement with the ministry. So as council may recall, the township was awarded close to $30 million in provincial funding for the Alexandria Lagoon expansion project. So following the tender process, the project was awarded at a cost significantly below the available funding allocation, creating an opportunity to utilize the remaining funding for additional projects. The township subsequently requested approval from the province to expand the scope of the funding agreement. So the proposed amendment that is before you this evening would direct available funding towards the Maxwell Lagoon expansion and optimization project, as well as some upgrades to the Alexandria main sewage pumping station, as well as some other wastewater infrastructure needs within Alexandria, which would support growth, housing development, and future regulatory requirements. The agreement also extends the timelines to successfully complete all projects from 2029 to 2030. There's no additional funding commitments being requested from either the township or the province. It's really simply an opportunity to maximize the value of funding that we did receive and address wastewater capacity needs in both Alexandria and Maxville. It is important to note that ministry staff have supported the township's request and provided an amending agreement for council's consideration this evening, but the expanded scope has not yet received final approval. The amendment will only take effect once the province executes the agreement and the township receives a fully signed copy from the ministry. Staff remain optimistic that approval will be forthcoming once we return it. However, it's certainly only in effect once we receive it and a formal announcement is made by the province.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it needs to be said out loud that it's very impressive and I'm going to say cooperative from the provincial government to accept this and work with us on this. The number of times that you hear about something like this happening is, I'm going to say, slim to none. Yeah. We're very, very lucky. And I'm going to say this is reasonably open in the sense that it allows us to put some of that money towards smaller things that need to get done. It's not specifically Lagoon, and just the pumping station. There's some other stuff in there that let's get done, which is just, again, absolutely amazing that we're able to use all of this money and not have to give any of it back.
Yeah, we had very good meetings at Roma with the minister, and I think they're very supportive at that point, actually saying that they couldn't believe a municipality was coming back and saying they had too much money. But so that's good news. So hopefully we get that final document in the coming weeks. Any further questions or comments at this point? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. There are none opposed. Okay. And last but not least, AD 2026-15 departmental updates. Councillor Massey.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Cadell, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receives staff report AD 2026-15 Fire Department quarterly update presented by Fire Chief Mathieu Roy for information purposes only.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Council. This report is to update Council on some of the activities that the North Glengarry Fire Department is currently undertaking. So, in terms of equipment implementation, as Council is aware, we recently purchased some new breathing apparatus for our firefighters. We've received them, and all three stations are currently undergoing training on procedural, donning, doffing, and we anticipate having putting it into place operationally by September 1st. So that's great news for all our firefighters in terms of the health and safety moving forward on them. As well as we're currently training on the new Dragger gas detection devices that monitors atmospheric conditions. So these have been put in place across all three stations where we've increased our capabilities as a department in terms of our capabilities of monitoring certain air conditions and certain incidents that our fire department continuously responds to. In terms of policies and procedures, we're continuously obviously modernizing our policies and procedures, and especially with all the new devices and new equipment that we're implementing. So we're ensuring that our firefighters have the policies and procedures in place to ensure that we can operate in a safe manner and operationally of how our services require. In terms of training and certification, we continue to prioritize firefighter certification as regulated by the province. As previously indicated to Council, now July 1st is now past 2026, so certification is now in effect. Again, I'm pleased to report that our department is fully compliant in terms of the regulations and firefighter certification. That is truly because of the dedication of our instructor cadre, as well as the ability for our fire service to have our internal training facility, which has been instrumental in our abilities to meet this regulation. So our members continue to train, and we will continue to meet the ongoing requirements of 2028, which is more of a specialized activities. I'm also pleased to report that North Glengarry will be hosting a common passenger vehicle auto education course at our training facility in September and October, where we are inviting all our mutual aid partners, so municipalities from across SDNG, including the City of Cornwall, where we're going to be undergoing this new certification. This certification is one that's new, that's been developed by the province, so we are leading the way in terms of our abilities, and the course is intended to develop instructors' capabilities, where all the instructors will be able to go back to their own municipalities and deliver this certification. So we're going to be ahead of the game on this certification, where so we're pleased to have that, to be hosting this in terms of, and having the support from the Ontario Fire College. So the Ontario Fire College is coming down to lead this course, so we're very happy to be delivering this. In terms of internal courses, in October, we're going to be having our hazardous material operations course, which is scheduled for October, 2 weekends in October. That's to train our current recruit class that has been undergoing, that's part of their ongoing certification. As well as Firefighter 2 certification is going to be taking place in November, along with our members are undergoing emergency medical responder training, which is going to be coming into service, which provides a higher level of medical response for our residents of North Glengarry. So I'm pleased for all the instructors and all the members that dedicated their time to receive this higher level of certification, to be able to provide that level of service to the community. Ongoing, the department, we continue to monitor staffing and apparatus readiness and capabilities. The maintenance required for our apparatus is ongoing. Recently conducting hose testing, pump testing, and I'm pleased to report that again our assets are in phenomenal condition in terms of as a department. So that concludes my report, unless council has any questions for me.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? No? Everything's good. So thank you for your report. Okay, moving on. Items under the consent agenda. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Cadell, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receive the items from the consent agenda for information purposes only.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council on items under the consent agenda? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Councilor Martin.
there was a couple, CA5, I think we discussed it at one point, but I don't know if we made any resolutions. It was that the funding for OCIF, the province moved it from 200 to 400 million, and they didn't really have a continuation beyond that. I think North Stormont put in a resolution, CA5, concerning that.
Right. Do you have anything, any update on that, Deputy Mayor, just from the Roma perspective? That we're talking
No.
about the OCIF funding?
Yeah, no, I don't have any update. Sorry.
So I don't, like, did we do a resolution as well? Did we add to that, or? I knew we had a discussion on it.
Jen is nodding yes.
Through you, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor, yeah, we did
Okay.
pass a resolution.
Okay,
a
I
number
knew
of
we had
months
discussed
ago.
it, but I wasn't sure we went. So another one I have is CA6, is the traffic calming funding. It's, right now, it's for villages, town and villages that had the speed cameras, and they want to take the speed cameras out, but have a fund so they can have different other types of traffic calming. Now, I think they should include any municipality that wants to add traffic calming. Like, I mean, we're hearing complaints throughout the township that, you know, speeding through, I know in Maxville, I like to slow it down to 40 clicks. I know it's kind of tough on a county road, but I know over Glen Robertson as well, they've had complaints, people speeding through town. So it's a fund that's in there that they want to propose, and I'd like to be able to make a resolution against that too. Let's see which one it is. Do you want me to read it out, or?
We can bring it back at the next meeting. We'll bring it back at the next meeting and have it on the agenda.
Because they were leaving it for villages and stuff that had speed cameras, and they want to get rid of the speed camera thing.
Right.
And so I'd like to try to make it
No, sounds good. Any other questions on consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? The motion is carried. There are none opposed. Notice of motion, our next regular meeting of council, Monday, September 14th, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. And I will open it up for question period. Are there any questions from the audience? Yep.
Hello. So my question today is about the asset management plan presentation. It looks like the plan is to approve it as is and go with the recommendation to increase the tax levy to cover the cost. I wish to say that a 2 or 3% increase, especially over 10, 20 years, it may seem small during any given year, but it continually adds up, especially when you count that it doesn't factor in interest. And anyone who invests knows compound interest, you want it to work in your favor and not against you. So this compounding tax levy, especially over the span of 20 years, really does add up. And perhaps a 2 or 3% increase could lead to maybe, say, a $30 or $40 increase on any individual household. But I grew up extremely poor, and I can remember having a $30 or $40 budget that has to stretch 2 weeks to feed an entire family. And basically, I'm here to speak on behalf of these people where, on paper, a 2 or 3% increase doesn't really sound very big, but in real world terms, especially when you account for these families, they're not the types of people to show up to council meetings. They're not the types of people to read these agendas. I want to ask this question on behalf of these people. If we are to move forward with the recommendation as presented, are there any alternatives to funding other than just a straight up tax levy increase? And is this something you guys will consider? And lastly, is this something you will consult with the public before moving forward in writing?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question. So the plan we adopt tonight isn't a direction for the future budget submissions. We're adopting a plan that has a few different scenarios that we're considering, and ultimately the recommendation they're making is, yes, a 20-year plan. However, it does not tie the hands of council as part of the budget deliberation process. The council, and most likely, will not be proceeding immediately with the recommendation in year one. It would be a phased-in plan, so like I said, that 20-year plan might become a 30 or a 40-year plan over time. It's really to understand where we are now and where we want to be, and so that council can make this decision to, to some of the points that you're raising, what is our responsibility to maintain our infrastructure assets, but then what is our, responsibility to the residents, and, what is reasonable and affordable. So it's really just a plan for information, and then we'll get continually updated every year, but it certainly is not intended to, issue any budget direction for council. It's really just a presentation of, various scenarios for council to consider what the right increase should be, and then as staff, we update accordingly and advise as to what the impacts are on the plan. But and like I said too, what's being proposed is full life cycle replacement, which isn't necessarily something that municipalities are achieving right now. That's a very lofty and long-term goal that I think you have to incrementally work there and get there, and council will consider that as through the budget process, but it's certainly not receiving the report isn't direction to increase the budget based off of those numbers. And to your comment about public consultation, so there will certainly be public consultation through the budget process as to what is being proposed as a draft budget, and then we certainly welcome feedback from the public and provide that to council so that council considers the feedback as they make their decisions.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments?
Thank you.
No other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. We will be going in closed session. We have 2 items to discuss: staffing update, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Litigation update, a litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals. And we will rise from that closed session and report and proceed into open session following that. So thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening, and we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll meet right after that. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone that are watching at home, and thank you to staff and council. thank you and welcome back. I'll ask Councillor Madden to read the.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Manley, that council now rise and report from the closed session of council held on Monday, August 10th, 2026, during the regular council meeting, and that there are no reportable items arising from the closed session, and that the regular council meeting now resume at 8:08 p.m.
Okay, thank you. No questions? All those in favor? Motion is carried, none opposed. And Resolution 10, ratifying, Councillor Cadell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Madden, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry adopts bylaw 43-2026, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, and that bylaw 43-2026 be read as first, second, and third time and enacted in open council this 10th day of August 2026.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. There are none opposed. And Deputy Mayor Williams.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Massey. There being no further business to discuss, the meeting was adjourned at 8:09 p.m.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, thank you, everyone, and thank you, council, and we'll see you at our next meeting.